Mr. Secretary, before I start, I just want to talk briefly about what I heard earlier. One of my colleagues from across the aisle suggested that we Republicans were somehow manufacturing outrage. The phrase was right-wing outrage machine was the phrase that he used. I thought, are the folks across the aisle not outraged about the millions of people that are coming across the border under of course, your watch, that most of whom probably don't qualify for asylum? Don't you think that all of us should be outraged about the thousands dying from fentanyl that's coming across the border under your watch? And don't you think that we should be outraged about cartels moving into American cities on this side of the border under your watch? And don't you think we should be outraged about the billions of dollars the cartels are raising from the most unfortunate and vulnerable from Central America and other places under your watch? And don't you think we should be outraged about the hundreds dying in the desert? I mean, yeah, it's hard to argue, I think, that we're manufacturing outrage when we look at these incredible, sad things happening under your watch. Now, I want to go to how we can fix, perhaps, some of that which you've been talking about for the last couple of hours. Because you said earlier, in response to a question from Congressman Issa, that the USA is not, quote, alone in some of its infirmities in its immigration system. I'm just quoting from you. I scribbled it down quickly. Infirmities in our immigration system. Give us a couple.
I'm sorry.
Infirmities in our immigration system is how you put it when you were comparing our immigration system to others across the world. Just share two.
Let me give you one example in the economic arena. That the market needs of our country, the economic needs of our country, are not taken into account when we admit economic migrants. We have statutory caps, statutory limits on the number of people we can admit, despite perhaps a greater need at a particular time. We do not calibrate the number according to need.
Right. So,
for example,
I understand. I actually understand what you're saying. Forgive me for cutting you off, but it leads very, very nicely to how we might address immigration as a comprehensive system. And don't you think that politically, at least, a secure border is an essential prerequisite to any comprehensive solution? Because what you were just starting to talk about was one of the adjustments we might make to our visa systems. And by the way, I'm enthusiastic about trying to improve those visa systems. But I'll tell you this much. If I go back home to all of my constituents, as I'm going to be doing this Friday, and I'm going to be talking to them on Monday at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, guess what? They're outraged about the things I mentioned earlier. And they're not going to want to listen to me talk about the details that you just suggested. And so tell me, what can we do? Those infirmities, do they include anything when it comes to fixing the border so it works better?
Yes.
Tell me.
So, for example, Congressman, and one of the measures that we have taken to address this infirmity is to issue a regulation that empowers our asylum officers to make the ultimate asylum adjudication and shrink the time in between an encounter at the border and the ultimate asylum adjudication. That duration now, historically, has been 6+ years.
Thank you for your thoughts on that. Thank you for your thoughts on that, and I'd like to follow up with you on it, if you would. I'm serious. Share with me your thinking on that issue. Is it correct, as we heard, I've been to the border 3 times, and the folks down there suggest that the cartels are extracting between $3,000 and $5,000, maybe more, per person that presents illegally at the border. Is that true?
Yes, Congressman.
And so that would mean, as the millions of people come in, we can multiply that times $4,000 or $5,000. Is that correct?
Congressman, that is correct, which is precisely why one of our efforts is to cut the smugglers out of the equation because of the profits they make, because of their ruthlessness, because of their criminality. And so,
forgive me for cutting you off, but I agreed to yield the balance of my time to the chair, Mr.